A number of years ago, I went to a city in America to speak about chinuch, to speak about just what I'm going to speak about tonight. And a few weeks later, I got a letter from a lady, and she wrote very respectfully, but she was very upset. And she said like this: "What right you come to our town and you start telling us all the things that we do, that we should do for the sake of our children, to have good children. And I can tell you that I have 5 children. I treated them all the same. And 4 of them are wonderful. 1 is Gehenna on this world, Gehenna on this earth. So, you know, I did all these things that you said that I should do, and I was doing them all these years. And I treated my kids the same, and 4 of them were wonderful, and 1 just gives my husband and I just terrible tzarot, just terrible." So I always answer any letter that I get. I never write, I always call. Because when you call, you can get a feeling, you know, of what the person is really thinking. And I apologized to her. I said, "I'm sure that, you know, you did very well, you did your best, and I'm sorry if I offended you in any way." But, and you know, and then I kind of pacified her. And then I was thinking to myself that this lady is very silly. Why? Because the Torah in the Payssach, it tells us, "Chanoch lenar al pi darko." You're supposed to treat every child differently, according to his level. So that means that if you have a child that could get a 90 on a test because he's bright, and you have a child that could only get a 70, and they both get 80 on a test, so the 70, that's the one that deserves a lot of praise. He did even more than what he could do. And the one who could really get a 90 and only got an 80, so he has to be told, you know, he could have done a little bit better. So every child is different. That's what I was thinking, that she made a terrible mistake when she said she treated all the children the same. Now I am a mohel, and I do brisin almost every day, and I travel hundreds and hundreds of miles. So many times when I'm driving, I'm thinking, and then something occurred to me. Avraham Avinu, he knew more about Jewish education than we'll ever know. And he had a son, Yishmael, who was a Rasha. How did that happen? Yitzchak, who certainly knew more about education than we will ever know, he had a son like Esav. David HaMelech, who wrote Tehillim, he had 3 sons that were Rishayim. Adoniyahu, Avshalom, and Amnon. 2 out of 3 wanted to kill him. David HaMelech, how could he have those such kids like that, right? The answer is, there's no guarantee. And the answer is that that lady was right, not me. That when she said she treated all the children the same, she didn't mean that she treated everyone the same. She treated every child what the child needed. And yet still, one of them gives her terrible problems. And if Avraham Avinu could have Yishmael, and Yitzchak could have Esav, and David could have those 3 sons, then the first lesson that we have to learn tonight about our children is that we have to pray for them. You need a certain mazel when you are raising children. Every single day, you have to pray that Hashem gives you the wisdom to say the right things and to inspire them. There's no guarantees. I can tell you, I have seen in the biggest and in the finest, and Rabbi Brook can tell you the same thing, in the biggest communities in the world, where you have great rabbis, and they have children that are going with girls day and night, that are on drugs, that don't come back at home till 4 o'clock in the morning and sleep till 12. There's no guarantee any place today. In the best families, you can have kids that are Rahman al-Islam, that means God should help us off the derech. So the first thing that we have to know is that you have to pray every day that Hashem gives you the wisdom, that your children hear from you the right things, and that they have the right friends, and that they are inspired by the Yiddishkeit that you have in your home. That's the first thing that we have to know from everyone. The second thing, I want to tell you something very interesting. Over the years, I have the opportunity to take many people. Every summer we go to different places where Judaism flourished. And one of the places that we've gone to is Lithuania. Now today, in Bnei Brak in Israel, there's a huge yeshiva on top of a mountain. It's called the Paravizhi Yeshiva. But Paravizh is really a town in Lithuania. And that town had that original yeshiva, the Paravizhi Yeshiva. Today, unfortunately, it's a bakery. They took it over, there's no Jews there. The only thing that when we were there, I pointed out to the people, take a look at this bakery. You'll see something interesting. It has 12 windows. And a Payssach Knesset is supposed to have 12 windows. So that building that used to be the yeshiva is still the same building with the 12 windows. And I believe that the reason that a synagogue, a shul, should have 12 windows is because it shows us that there are 12 shvatim, 12 tribes, and God listens to the tefillot of everybody, so that's why a shul should have 12 windows. But when I was there, I told them something that the Paravizh Rav once asked, a very interesting question. The Pasuk says in Tehillim that David HaMelech wrote, David HaMelech prays to Hashem, Shalach Yodech Hashem, send your hand mimarom from above, Pitzeini v'hatzileni, release me and save me, Mimayim Rabim, from the stormy waters, Miyad B'nei Nechor, from the Gentile nations. So in other words, David HaMelech is saying, the Goyim, they are like strong waters, very strong waters, Mayim Rabim. So the Paravizh Rav asked, but it says in the Pasuk in Avadia, V'hoya Beis Yaakov Eish, Ubeis Yosef Lahova, Jews are like a fire. So the Goyim are like water. The Jews are like fire. So what happens when water and fire get together? The water puts out the fire. So is that what's going to happen to the Jews? The Jews that are fire are going to be put out by the water? Because when you have enough water, you can put out the fire. Says the Paravizh Rav something genius. When does the water put out the fire? When they touch each other. But what if you have a pot in the middle? You have a fire, and there's a pot, and in the pot is the water. The fire is going to control the water. The fire could become so hot that the water will dissipate and it'll melt. So the Paravizh Rav says, we live among the nations of the world. We have all the technology. We see how they live, how they dress, how they talk. But if we get close to them and we allow them, so to speak, to touch us in the way we think and the way we act, then chas v'shalom, then the water's going to put out the fire. But if we have a mechitza, if our home is a mechitza from the outside world, if our schools are a mechitza, like a pot, then we control it. So I want to tell you something that I just told the boys and the girls from Shalom, from Makom. I'm sure all of you heard of the solar eclipse, right? Everybody heard the solar eclipse. What happened 2 weeks ago in America? Millions of people bought those glasses. They should be able to look up at the sun when the moon was covering the sun. And then in middle of the week, in middle of the day, it was going to become, it's okay. In middle of the day, it became totally black like the nighttime. It became like nighttime. And people wanted to see how the sun is covering the moon. So they had to use these certain glasses, otherwise their eyes could get hurt. And everybody was watching it. That's all people spoke about for weeks before. And everybody showed it all over, millions of people across the United States. And I was wondering, what is the muvan? What is the understanding? When something like that happens, God is trying to give us a message. What message is there in seeing and watching a solar eclipse? And I was reading all the Jewish newspapers. I wanted to see if somebody gives some insight. I didn't see anything. I didn't see anything that made me feel that, this is what God is trying to tell us. So when you don't see anything, you got to think yourself, right? Got no choice. So I started thinking, and then suddenly, a thought came to me. You know how big the sun is compared to the moon? 400 times bigger than the moon. The moon is so small compared to the sun, that's humongous. That's so 400 times. How could anybody in their brain say that the moon covered the sun? That's what everybody was saying. The moon is going to cover the sun and you can't see the sun. It's impossible. The moon is so small, 400 times less than the sun. So then it occurred to me, Wait a second, I'll tell you what happened. The moon didn't cover the sun. The moon blocked our vision. And I want to show you something. Take a look at this ball, right? This is a baseball. It's very small. If I hold it here, I can still see everybody here. But watch what happens when I bring it close to my eye. Now I can't see anybody. How can I not see anybody? You're all bigger than that. You're all more important than that. But you know what happens when you take something that's insignificant and you bring it into your life so close, blocks out the vision of everything that's important. That's the message of the solar eclipse. The message is that we could take certain things that are not so important. They're important. We need them. But you can't let it take over your life. If you let it take over your life, then you can't see the broad picture. You can't see what we're doing. In your homes, we have to show our children what's really important. I have a friend, before he became a Baal Tshuva, he joined many bike clubs around the world. And he would go with boys and girls. They went to New Zealand. New Zealand has a North Island and a South Island. So on the South Island, when they got off the boat, because there's a body of water in between, he told me they started pedaling up that hill. It was almost like a straight wall. And they couldn't do it. It was so hard. And the guys in front of him, this guy who was telling it to me, his name is, today he's Simcha Barnett, but he used to be Steve Barnett. So he and his brother, his brother was Mitch, now he's Michael. But he told me that he noticed something very interesting. The guys ahead of him, they had a backpack. And you know, when you're carrying something heavy, it's hard to get up the mountain. So what did they do? They took out a heavy book, threw it away. They took out a heavy tool, threw it away, a tire, threw it away. So they got rid of the baggage as they were trying to get to the mountain. And he told me when he became a Baal Tshuva, he said, oh, I realized that trip on the mountain, that was the trip of the Baal Tshuva. The Baal Tshuva, mi yaleh b'har Hashem, who's the one who wants to get up to the top of the mountain? Or mi yakum b'mkom kodsher, who wants to remain there? Neki chapayim, the one who's clean, who gets rid of the baggage. He said, the only reason I was able to come a Baal Tshuva and get to the top of the mountain, I was carrying a lot of baggage. But when I got rid of that baggage, oh, then I could get up to the top of the mountain. Now, the Oilelois Ephraim says something amazing. He said the word masa, masa means a load, is spelled mem, shin, aleph. Mem is momoy, money. Shin is simlois, clothes. Aleph is ochel. We all need money, we all need food, and we all need clothes. But if that becomes your main obsession in life, you gotta make so much money, then that money and the clothes and the ochel is coming so close, you can't see what's really important. And that's what parents have to do more than anything else, is teach their children priorities. What's important? What's important? When you are on your deathbed and you're thinking about your life, you're not going to think, oh, I should have made that business deal. No. You're going to think, why didn't I spend more time with my kids? Why didn't I teach my kids what's really important? Let's not wait until it's too late. Let's give our children the lessons of what's really important. We all need food, we all need clothes, we all need money. But that's not what life is all about. All those are means to an end. So I want to tell you something that moved me very, very much. And you could go online and you could see this. And if you have never seen it, you will lose your breath the first time you see it. As I told you, I take many people different places. So one year we went to Hungary. And we came to Budapest and we came to the Danube River. Now, in the 1940s, the Hungarians, the Rishayim, what they did was they took Jews, they lined them up on the Danube River, and they shot them into the water. And they killed them. And what they did, they were such Rishayim, they tied two people together and they only shot one. And he would fall into the river and the other guy would drown because he couldn't get untied. And Raoul Wallenberg came down and took 10 people off. He had passports, and one of them happened to be my Mechutin's mother, and that's how he was born. He was born afterwards, but she was on that line with her daughter, and he took off 10 of the youngest people with children. But anyway, where people died because they were Jewish, Rab Chaim Kanievsky says that's a Makom Kodosh, that's a holy place, you should go daven there. You can daven there. So I wanted to take the people there to daven right by the Danube River. Now my mechutner, whose mother was saved, he was there a few hours before me. And he is a fabulous photographer. And he showed me the memorial that they made along the Danube River. When I saw it, my mouth dropped open. I said, Alex, please do not show this to anybody else. I want everybody, when they get off the bus, that they should see the memorial, and they're going to lose their breath when they see the simplicity and the brilliance of it. You get off the bus, and you walk towards the beach. And on the beach is a whole row of empty shoes. They're nailed in, they're bronzed in. Shoes of little children, shoes of fathers and mothers and grandmothers. Empty shoes, that's all you see along the Danube River. And it represents all those people that were never shot. And you look at it and you just want to cry, because you see the little shichalach, the little shoes of those children. And we came all together and we started praying and we started singing and crying. And we sang that pasuk, Gam ki elech begeitz amoves. Even though I walk in the valley of death, lo ira ro, I will not be afraid, ki atay madi God, because you are with me. And I was so haunted by those shoes. Go online tonight. Shoes on the Danube. I'm telling you, you won't believe it. So I come back to New York, and wherever I go, I'm telling this story about the shoes. It made such an impression on me. And I said to everyone, 6 million is a lie. It's not 6 million, it's 60 million. Because every one of those 6 million could have had children, they would have had grandchildren, and today already great-grandchildren. So 6 million is a lie. And then when I came to my synagogue, where I daven Rosh Hashanah, I'm not the rabbi there, I daven there like everybody else. And there was Birchat Kohanim. So by Birchat Kohanim, you know, the Sfardim do it every day, but we Ashkenazim, we only do it on the holidays, right? Yeah. So I'm standing with my talis over my head by Birchat Kohanim, and I daven near the front of the shul. I take off my talit, I almost fainted. A whole row of empty shoes by the Oren Kodesh. The shoes of those children that was blessing the Kehillah. The shoes of the fathers and the grandfathers. I tell you, I started crying. I put my towels over my head. I couldn't look at those shoes. It reminded me of the shoes on the Danube. And I was thinking, what's the difference between these shoes and the shoes that I saw on the Danube? And you know what the answer is? Because those shoes that we see in the synagogue, they can be filled. People can walk in them and go to pray and do mitzvot and achnosas orchim and tzedakah and go to shul and learn and daven. But those shoes are empty. Who's going to fill those shoes? We have to fill those shoes. That's why we come in this world. We come in this world to raise families, to raise Jewish children, and to fill those shoes, because it's not 6 million, it's 60 million. And every time we raise a Jewish child, and we make that child proud that he's a Jew, that he goes to the shul, and he learns Torah, and he does mitzvot, and he helps people, and he does chesed, that's the role of parents, to fill those shoes. And that's why we come together always to speak about chinuch, because we need that guidance in today's difficult world. Well, the children have access to everything. How are you going to change that? How are you going to change that the children should love what you stand for when they have the attraction of all over the whole world? I'll tell you what I think. I'll tell you what I think the first thing is. And that is that our homes have to be a happy place. You know, when your home is a happy place, then your child wants to be there. Rav Matisyahu Solomon should be well. He's the mashgiach in Lakewood. He said many of these kids, they're not dropouts, they're push-outs, because the parents put so much pressure on them, and they're always criticizing them. Do you know a study was made, 19 out of 20 comments that we make to our children are negative. Why did you forget your books? Why did you forget your homework? Why didn't you get a good mark? Why you didn't do this? Why you didn't do that? When was the last time you went over to your child and said, you are so special, I'm a millionaire because you're my child? I just told it to my granddaughter. My granddaughter was named after my mother, that's why I love her so much, but I love all my granddaughters. I said to her, Hindi, you know, I'm a millionaire because you're my granddaughter. She's 6 or 7. She said, Zaidi, you always say that. It's true, because they can't hear it enough. When you make your child feel that they are the most special thing in your life, they want to be next to you. Really. And they want to go on vacation with you. How many kids want to go on vacation with parents? But when you make them feel that they are your whole life and that you compliment them, and when you see that they're doing, what happens? You come to the house and two kids are playing so nicely. What do you do? Oh God, thank you so much. And you just walk away, you don't say anything, right? Why don't you say, kids, I'm so proud of you. You're playing so nicely. Whoever says that? But we have to give compliments to the children. So I want to tell you something very interesting. The Gemara says, in Tainis, Chav Beis Amud Aleph, 21a, it says like this. Eliyahu Hanavi was once walking with Rab Broika, and they saw two people. So Eliyahu Hanavi says, you see these two guys? They're going straight to the Olam HaEmes. They're going straight. He says, whoa, I didn't know they're such big tzaddikim. So after Eliyahu Hanavi left, he goes over to these two guys. He says, who are you? I heard you're going straight to Olam HaEmes. What do you do? Listen what they said. They said, Inchi b'dichi anan. We are happy people. Mebatchinon atzivi. We make those that are unhappy, we make them happy. Imagine you have the capacity to walk into a room and make somebody feel special. If you can make somebody feel special, there's so many people that are so sad today because of so many problems. And you walk over, you put your arm around that person, you make them feel special. You got a straight ticket. You know, every morning we say in the Hallelujahs, Horoifei lishvurei leiv. God heals the brokenhearted. I once heard something beautiful. Those of you who know Hebrew, what is the first letter of Haroifei? Hey. Lishvurei, Lamed. Leiv, Lamed. Hey, Lamed, Lamed. Hallel. That's the biggest praise you can say on anybody. Haroifei, Lishvurei, Leiv. That they can make somebody feel special. So now, that's amazing. Anytime I speak about marriage, I say, look at this Gemara. Right? If somebody is a happy person and makes other people happy, he's got a straight ticket. So now listen what the Ma'am Loye says. Such a brilliant insight. He said, what did they say? They didn't just answer the question that they make other people happy. They said, Inchi b'diche anan. We are happy people. We make others happy. Says the Ma'am Loyes, She'im adam roitze l'sameach acherim. If you want to make somebody else happy, you want to make your spouse happy, you want to make your kids happy, you want to make your employees happy, you got to be a happy person. If a person would be depressed, even if you want to make your spouse happy, you're never going to make him happy or her happy. If you're always negative and always criticizing the rabbi, criticizing the neighbors, criticizing the storekeeper, criticizing everybody, you're always criticizing, you're never going to make anybody happy. You have to become a happy person. And when you are a happy person, everybody in the house is happy. We all want to be around happy people. And kids especially want to be around happy people. They don't want to be around people. Now, you can still criticize. There's a way to criticize, of course. But basically, the house has to be a happy place. And I'll tell you something very interesting. There's a woman who wrote a book, What Children Learn from Their Parents' Marriage. Children are deeply affected by the ways in which parents demonstrate respect for each other. When parents praise or compliment each other, they send a message of value that is fully absorbed by the child. When parents demean each other, they create discomfort and conflict in the child. Disrespect between parents creates an imprint of marriage as an unsafe place to be. Now, I know I'm on video, and I know I'm on tape, and eventually this is going to get to great organizations like Torah Anytime, and people all over will hear it. But let me tell you something. When there is fighting between a husband and a wife, and the family breaks up, the kids are sacrifices. The kids are terribly affected. Now, sometimes a divorce has to happen, there's no question. But don't think that kids don't pay a price. They pay a bitter price. Now, many of us are so humble. They think, oh, you know, my father, he was a father. My mother, she was a mother. I remember I used to wake up in the middle of the night, I see my wife next to me, and think, she's a mother? I'm a father? This is a joke. My father was a father. But to your kids, you're that father. To your kids, you're that mother. And they look up to you, and they adore you, and they idolize you, and they want to be validated by you. But if two people are killing each other, and the kid is so frightened, You know why there are so many young divorces? It's not the only reason. You know why? Because they come from homes where they saw they were self-fighting, and as soon as the husband sees, oh, my wife is arguing, oh man, I'm not going through this. That's what my father went through. I'm out of here. Well, the wife sees, oh, he's criticizing. Oh, that's what my father did to my mother. She stayed with the marriage. I'm out of here. You have to be so careful. Think about it. When was the last time you gave your spouse a beautiful compliment in front of your kids? Let's say the supper is great. There's nothing wrong with saying, that's a great supper. It's like a hotel. I always try to say that. At least by me it's true anyway. Because I love my wife's cooking, as you can see. You know, she wants me to lose weight. I said, it's your fault. But the point is, you have to give a compliment. If a husband comes home and he brings home a certain amount of money, or he does something beautiful in the office or whatever, the wife should compliment. And when the wife does something good, the husband should compliment and say, I'm so proud of you. Even if they're married 30 years. Everybody wants to be validated. Because if you don't get validated at home, you're going to try to get validated someplace else, and that's why the kids leave. Because they want to be validated. So the second thing, first thing we said is definitely prayer. That's the first thing. The second thing is we have to have a mechitza, we have to have a separation from the outside world. We all need food, we all need clothes, we all need money, but we can't let it take over our lives. We have to give our children priorities. And the third thing is that we have to make sure that our home is a happy place to be. I'll tell you one thing which is very important, and that is that children have to see that as soon as you come home, that the first thing that you say is something positive. Both husbands and wives. Even if you got into a car accident, or even if you got a ticket, by the police, whatever, that's not how you come home. That's not how you start. When you come in and you say something nice, whether the husband to the wife, it sets the tone, and then you could say that you're getting fired tomorrow, or that the kids got thrown out of school, or something, right? But you don't start that way. I have a friend who's a psychologist. I don't know why all my friends are psychologists. I'm therapists, but whatever. So he says that he always tells them that in the Pasuk it tells us that Hashem said to Cain, La Payssach chatos revetz. Sin rests at the door. How do you start when you come in? Do you start with something positive? So a husband who comes home, the first thing that he should say is, I heard a great shiur today. I made a great business deal today. I heard something great in Israel today. And then he could say, whatever happened throughout the day, but it's something positive. And the wife also. She should say, I baked your favorite cake today. The principal called, the kids did something great. My mother called, she decided not to come. Something positive. I once saw a great expression. The right temperature in a home is maintained by warm hearts, not hot heads. Very important. The right temperature in a home is maintained by warm hearts, not hot heads. So that's another aspect of child rearing. Now here's another thing that I think is so important. I remember I once went, Rabbi Brook knows Rav Volba, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, was the Pikeach Hador. He was the wisest person. He wrote a great, great book. You could get it in English and in Hebrew, Zriya Ubinyan Bechinuch, planting and seeding, raising a Jewish child. It's a thin little book. It's worth its weight in gold. Fabulous book. So I once went to him and I said to him, Rabbi, I have the opportunity to speak to many people about chinuch. What should I tell them? He said, tell every parent there are two things they have to give their child. Time and love. So my son, who was sitting there and he was learning in the kollel, I guess he was afraid he's going to have to give his kid a lot of time. He said, Rabbi, how much time am I going to give my kids? So the rabbi gave such a great answer on the spot. He said, as much as they need. And now I want to tell you something that I did with all my children. I have 5 children. Every week I gave every kid 20 or 25 minutes undivided attention. This was before cell phones, no cell phones, nothing, no calls. We're going for a walk. Whatever you want to do. You want to go bowling? We'll go bowling. You want to get pizza? You want to learn Ezra? We'll learn that. Whatever you want. It's just me and you. You have to raise your hand. When was the last time, think about it, that you had a decent conversation with your child? Now, what'd you get in school? Where are you going tomorrow? What your friends are doing? A real conversation like you have with your friends. Most of us don't even get a chance to talk to our kids. If you are a father and you do not know the name of the Gemara that your child is learning, you got homework. And if you are a mother and you don't know your daughter's favorite colors and her 3 best friends, you got homework to do. We have to talk to our children. You have to give them time. I'll tell you, I believe today parents are so young. You know, I am a mohel. Many times I come into a house, I say to a lady, "Are you the mother?" She says, "No, I'm the grandmother." Today everybody looks so young. Last year my wife went ice skating with my granddaughter. My Bobby didn't know what an ice skate was, right? So today we have a great connection to our grandchildren. And sometimes, you know, a grandparent, a young grandparent, an energetic grandparent, can stand in for a parent and give that child time. So I presume that everybody here knows baseball, right? You know, everybody plays baseball. You've seen baseball, right? Okay. So you know that on baseball, you know, they wear a glove, you know, to catch the ball, right? So I'm a big believer in sports. I believe every kid should be exceptional in sports if they can. Boys and the girls, it gives them a great feeling of confidence. And then when they get older, they'll have confidence in other things. But if a kid is great in sports, I'm telling you, he can turn over the world. If he has that confidence and he's good at it, it's wonderful. And I always, you know, made sure that my kids were good, you know, terrific sports. Except one daughter, she couldn't play ball, but she's a great cook. Fine. But okay, so she did her thing. Her name is Elisheva. We called her Elishefa, you know, like a chef, whatever. But anyway, so now I call my grandson, who was named after my father also. His name is Avram Zelig. This goes back many, many years. Today he's living in Israel, but this was back when he was about 8 years old. I said, Avram, listen, when you're ready for your first glove, call me. You know, I'll get it for you. We'll get it together. He said, okay, Zadie, I'll call you. 2 days later, he calls me. He says, Zadie, I'm ready. Okay, that was fast. Okay, so we go to this place that's called Sports Authority. Now, if you can imagine, it's 100 times bigger than this Beis Medrash that we're in right now. It's humongous. So many basketballs and baseballs and footballs and soccer balls and uniforms and bats and balls and gloves. There's no end. So now, I don't know, certainly the women can't relate to what I'm about to say, but the men, maybe. When I was a kid, I had a glove. I loved the glove. It was a Wilson glove. That was the name of the company. Now, it was made out of a certain leather, and I became like an addict. I used to smell the leather. I used to love the leather. So everybody's playing baseball out in the field, you know, until they start pitching. I just smell the leather. I couldn't believe it. It just was like heavenly. So now I'm going up and down the aisles, you know, with my grandson Avram, and I see a glove, and it's made by Wilson. I can't believe after all these years they're still making gloves. I pick up the glove, I smell it. It's the same smell. I said, Avram, this is your glove. He said, Zadie, what are you talking about? How do you know? I said, smell it, you'll see. Okay, anyway, so he picks it up, I throw a ball to him, he catches it, right? We're playing a ball in the store, right? Back and forth, back. He takes the ball, he takes the glove, he's so happy, right? Okay, kind. 2 weeks later, one night, my wife comes home with the baseball glove. I said, Min, what are you doing with the glove? She said, nah, Avram said you like it. He knows you can have it tonight. He knows you like to smell it. So, because this kid, I spend time with him every single Friday, no matter where he is or I am in the world, he calls me to say good Shabbos. I just spoke to him this Friday. He's in Eretz Yisrael. But when you spend time with a child, now you can give him $25, $25 and go buy a glove. Yeah, the kid will be happy, but he's got no connection to you. He's got a connection to the store. But you spend the time with them. It makes a difference. And when you spend time with your child is so proud because this is his father or her father that's walking and spending time with them. How many parents do that? But when you give time and love, I'll tell you a very painful story. Again, a friend of mine, Mayor Wycliffe, the therapist, told me this story. He said he once had a 22-year-old girl who was in his office. And she was talking and, you know, telling her problems. And he had already seen her twice. This was now the third time when this happened. It's a third visit. Now, Mayor tells me, every time he tells me this story, he says, I'm telling you, I still don't know why I asked her this question. I said, you need a therapist. You know, don't ask me. But anyway, but the point is, he said to her, this is the third time you're here. Not once Did you mention your father? Do you want to tell me something about your father? He said the second it left his mouth, he knew he said the wrong thing. Her face fell and she started crying. She couldn't stop crying. 22-year-old. Very difficult to sit in an office with a 22-year-old girl who's just fell apart. And it's your fault because you asked her a question. She didn't say anything. You said it, right? He said, I'm so sorry that I brought it up. And she's saying, no, don't worry. And she gets hold of herself. Finally says, listen, you don't have to say anything. I'm sorry I brought it up. She said, no. I want to tell you why I started crying. She said, when you mentioned my father, I remembered an incident that happened when I was 15 years old. It was at the Seder table. And I took the Afikomen. It was the first night of Payssach. And my father knew that I took the Afikomen. And at the end of the Seder, he came over to me. He said, I know you have the Afikomen. What do you want for the Afikomen? And she said, a conversation. Is that sad? That's why she was crying. Her father had no time for her. He was involved in money, food, clothes, all these kind of things, but not his kids. That's the priority. People ask me, how do you travel? 2 weeks ago you're in the Ukraine, now you're in Sao Paulo, and then you go to England, and you're all over the world. Oh, my kids are married. You gotta be crazy to do this stuff if your kids are home. When your kids are home, you belong home. You can't go to every single wedding. And you know something? I got a secret. They're gonna get married without you. You'll see. Even if you don't show up. Unless it's your brother or your sister. But Baruch Hashem, Klal Yisrael is very big. How many tens of thousands are there Jews in Sao Paulo? You can't go to every wedding. You can't go to every bar mitzvah when your kids are home. Because if you don't validate them, somebody else is going to be. That's what Rav Wolbe was saying to us. Time and love. Now here's another thing. Amazing thing. You know, in Tanakh, in Shoftim, it tells us a story. And Rav Schwab is the one who writes it, Rav Shimon Schwab. Shimshon's parents, Manoyach and his wife, Slafonis, they didn't have any children. And one day, the wife of Manoyach comes home and she says, I saw a malach today. I saw an angel. And he said, you don't realize it, but you're expecting a baby. And from now on, don't drink any wine and don't touch anything that's tamei, that's defiled, that's not tahor, because your child is going to be a nazir and he's not going to be able to drink wine. He's not supposed to drink wine. So now she comes home and she tells it to her husband. I'm pregnant. We're going to have a child. And the malach told me I can't drink any wine or touch anything that's tamei. So listen to what he says to her. He says, like he can't believe it. You saw a malach. And he says to Hashem, Bi Adoni, Ish Elikim, Asher Shalachta, that angel that you sent, let him come and tell it to me. Let him come and tell it to me. So like, you know what, he doesn't trust his wife. She was a tzaddikus, right? But he wanted to see. So listen, the malach comes back. Hashem makes a miracle. And listen what the malach says. The malach says very simply, Vayemer malach Hashem el Manoyach. The malach of God says to Manoyach, Mikol asher amati Elisha tishamer. Everything I told your wife, that's what you got to do. I told her that. The simple meaning is I told her she can't drink wine, she can't touch anything tamei. That's what you got to do. So Rav Schwab said, for that he had to come back. We would think that the malach would tell him something real special. If Hashem made a miracle, the malach came back a second time. There had to be a great message here. Right? Anything that happens has to have a great message. So Rav Schwab says a genius thing. He said the malach said something very deep. He said like this, Mikol asher amarti Elisha, everything I told your wife, Tishamer, you got to do it. Because if you do it, then your son will do it. But if you don't do it, your son's not going to do it. Oh, that's a different meaning. You got to be a role model for your child. When we say in Birkat Hamazon, Harachmon Yuvarech Ovi Moiri, bless my father, my teacher, my Imi, my Rossi, my mother, my teacher, it doesn't mean that she stands up in front of a classroom or that he stands up in front of a classroom. The way he drives, the way he talks about the rabbi, the way he talks about his boss, the way he talks about other people. You're a role model. That's what he was saying. So I was once in Belgium, and a fellow, Pinchas Kornfeld, told me an amazing story. They have a little kindergarten for little boys and girls, and the Mora wanted to teach the kids about Shabbos. How many people here understand Yiddish? Just raise your hand. Okay, it's fine. So I'll say it. Okay, it's okay. I'll translate it in English. Fine. So I heard it in Yiddish, so it's dear to me. But I'll translate it. So she says, okay, Chaimel, you're going to bring in the wine. And Sarla, you're going to bring in the challah, and this boy's going to bring in, the fish, and this one's going to bring in, the napkins or whatever. And Wednesday morning, she sets up the whole table, like a Shabbos table. And she puts all the boys and girls around the table. And she says, Chaimel, you're going to be the tati. You're going to be the father. Boy, he's such a fraud, he's so proud, he's going to be the tati, right? So she says to him in Yiddish, fang on, begin. What she really meant is that he should say Kiddush. That's not what he did. You know what he did? He plops his head back on his chair and he says, oh, did I have a difficult week? That's how he starts Shabbos? That's how his father starts Shabbos every week? Oh, I had such a difficult week. You can't even make that up. She wanted he should make Kiddush, and he's imitating his father. That's Avi Moiri. That's Imi Moirossi. How many times you call somebody in the house, right? And the daughter picks up the phone, you think you're talking to the mother. Or the son picks up, you think you're talking to the father. Because even the inflections of the voice are the same. In my house, you come to my house, you're all invited. Not at the same time, but you're all invited. Right? You want to see where the newspapers are? On top of the refrigerator. Why? Because that's what my mother-in-law did. So that's what my wife does. It like became Halach L'Moshe Messinai. That's where the newspapers belong. You know something? In my house, don't ask me why, all the doorknobs have rubber bands. Not in the desk, because that's how my mother-in-law did it in Denver. So that's how my wife did it. So even small infinitesimal things that are not important, children are copying their parents. So we have to know one of the lessons of chinuch is that when you come late to shul, you can't tell your child, don't come late to shul. And when you talk during Chazaras Hashatz, you can't tell your child not to talk during Chazaras Hashatz. And if you don't open a sefer in the house, a holy book, a Chumash, a Tanakh, a Gemara, whatever, don't expect your child to do it. You got to be the role model. It's not only that you go to a shir, but when you're in the house, you're not just looking at the internet the whole time. Because what in the world do you think your kid is going to look at? Now, you may be looking at the holy stuff, right? But you know what they're going to be looking at because it's the internet. So every single thing that you do, just remember, imagine if your son saw you or your daughter saw you. That's how you have to look at it. Because they do know. You can't hide. You can't hide from your kids what you really are. They know. They may not say anything to you, but they know. So one of the lessons in chinuch is to make sure that you're a role model. And finally, the final thing is to love doing mitzvahs. When you love doing a mitzvah, your child loves it. When you kiss the siddur, or you kiss the lulav and the esrog, and you show your children, this is so precious to me. Not that you complain how expensive the matzah is, and you complain how expensive the lulav is, and Chol Yisrael and all these things, because that's exactly what, that's what the kids are going to complain. But you're happy to build a sukkah, and you want to decorate it, and you want to make it beautiful. I'll tell you a story about a guy who loved doing mitzvahs. You wouldn't believe. This guy's name was Michal Goodfarb. And you know him. Used to know him anyway. He passed away. This guy always davened with a minyan. Wherever he was, he davened with a minyan. Never missed a minyan. Wherever he traveled. So now, one day he comes home. He lives in Yerushalayim. He comes home 3 o'clock in the morning from a wedding, and he realizes, oh my gosh, I didn't daven Marav with a minyan. Where am I going to get a minyan 3 o'clock in the morning? So there's a place called Zichron Moshe. Somebody told him that they have minyanim 24/7. Just go there. You'll find a minyan. He comes there at 3:30 in the morning. He looks around. There's 2 guys in the room there. He says, you think we're going to have a minyan? The guy says, what are you, crazy? In an hour and a half, it's Vasikin. It's going to be Shacharit. It's in the morning. There's not going to be no Marav minyan. He says, I haven't missed a minyan in 30 years. I got to have a minyan. They say, I don't know what you're going to do. Listen what this guy thinks of. If we lived to 160, we'd never figure this out. He's got 2 guys plus him 3. He calls a car service. He says, send me 7 Israeli cab drivers. Only Jews, no Arabs. Right? Right? What's he going to do in Arab for a minute? Right? Guy says 7 taxi drivers, 3 o'clock in the morning. Who's got 7? How many got? 5. Okay, 5. He calls somebody else, send me 2. 7 guys come running up with their taxis, 3:30 in the morning. Everybody wants to know, where's the bar mitzvah? Where's the wedding? What in the world are we doing here? The guy says, Rabotai, I have to daven Ma'ariv for the million. I don't care what it costs. Start your meters. Everybody start your meters, and I'll pay you for it. Okay, they all start their meters. They all come in. So some guys were religious. They knew what Ma'ariv was. Some other guys, you know, you have to give them a yarmulke. You put it on like a triangle. You know, they didn't know. It took 20 minutes. They finished Ma'ariv. They finished Ma'ariv. He goes over to the first guy. He came a religious guy. He says, "How much do I owe you on the meter?" He says, "Listen, sir, I've been davening all my life. I never saw anything like this. That for 1 million on a Tuesday night, a guy's going to pay 7 cab drivers? I don't believe it. I'm so honored to be here. I wouldn't take a penny." He goes to the Chiloni. He's for sure he's going to take money, right? He goes. He says, "How much do I owe you?" The guy says, "Listen, sir, I haven't been in the synagogue in 7 years. I don't even go Yom Kippur. You forced me to come here tonight. I should pay you, not you should pay me." Right? And not one guy took a penny from him. Why? Because they said, "Oh, this guy loves mitzvahs." And when you see that somebody loves mitzvahs, oh, then the kids are going to love mitzvahs. Not only the ones that you love, but any mitzvah they'll love. You know, I have a son-in-law. His name is Shlomo David Pfeiffer. So he had a grandmother who I loved so much. She was over 90. She passed away. She was 100. But every time she was from Detroit, her name was Oma Roberg, Ilse Roberg. And she was born in Germany, and I used to love to talk to her. I mean, she once told me that I think she was 97, and she went into the registration bureau to register a new car. And this little 22-year-old girl sitting behind the counter, she said, "You just bought a new car?" She looks at her birthday. She's 97. She said, "You're registering it for 5 years?" She said, "Yeah, then I plan to buy another one." She was very, very confident. Anyhow, so she told me a story, you wouldn't believe this, that happened in Stuttgart, which was in Germany. She told me it was right before the war, and already all the rabbis were taken out of that city, and she had just gotten married to her husband, Alex, and they had no money. And in those times in Germany, the food was rationed. You could only get a certain amount of milk if you were a Jew. You couldn't buy any chocolate, only a certain amount of butter, and 4 eggs a month, only 1 egg a week. So she told me she had no money, but he was a teacher in the Hebrew department. She was a teacher in the secular department, and every Friday morning she would make a little cake with that 1 egg. And that was a special treat for her husband and her for Shabbat. Fine. She told me one morning her husband, Alex, is teaching, and she opens up the egg, and it's got a blood spot in it. And if it's got a blood spot, so you can't use it. And she's thinking, "Oh my gosh, what's going to be with this Shabbos cake?" And she's thinking, maybe I would just wipe off that blood spot because it didn't go into the egg. And, if I did wrong, so one day I'll find the rabbi, and if he tells me I did wrong, so I'll never do it again. But then she told me she was thinking, look, Alex trusts me. He's in school. He doesn't know what I do with the kashrus, but he trusts me in the kitchen. I can't do anything like that. So she told me, she just threw out the egg, and she was crying. And then she was thinking, should she use next week's egg for this week's cake? And she was thinking, look, we don't even know if we're going to be alive next week. So I'm going to wash out the bowl, and I'm going to use the egg, and we'll have, for this week. And we'll see what happens afterwards. She washed out the bowl. You're not going to believe this. She told me she opened up the egg, and out came 2 yolks. And Omar Roberg told me, sometimes Hashem sends you a small message, but it lasts a lifetime. That message to her was my daughter. It was only me and you. Nobody would have known. But you loved that mitzvah, and you loved me, so I'm giving you a little gift, just to show you that you're so special. So of course, what do you think our children are like, and what do you think our grandchildren are like, and great-grandchildren? Because this is a lady who loves mitzvahs, even when nobody is around. But then eventually it gets out, like this got out. And of course, that's the role model that parents have for children when they love mitzvahs that way. So let's review everything that we said, and we'll end with a great story. Let's remember that there's no guarantees. We have to pray for every child, every grandchild. Now, I don't know if you daven Nusach Sfard or Nusach Ashkenaz, but I can tell you that every day I love davening Nusach Sfard. It has a lot of extra words. I'm big into extra words. I love davening extra words. But the extra words that I love in the Birchas HaTorah, V'ni Anachnu B'Tzetzo'enu, And who knows what it says afterwards? Tzetza'ei, tzetza'einu. That's the grandchildren. It's not a Nusach Ashkenaz. I don't know why, but it's a Nusach Sfard, and I love it. I have it underlined in my siddur. It's very special. Daven for your kids because there's no guarantees. Let's remember what the Ponevezher Rav told us. You got to keep that pot in the middle. The goyim are like water, and we're like fire. If we touch, then the water's going to put out the fire. But like this, if your house is a mechitza and the school is a mechitza, then of course it's going to be different. Let's remember to make sure that our house is a happy place. And when it's a happy place, the kids are going to want to be there. And let's remember that we have to replace those 6 million, 60 million. That's what our job is, to build families and to make sure that every child is so proud to be a wonderful yid. Let's remember to give our children the 2 things that Rav Olber told us: time and love. How much time? As much as they need. Let's remember to be a role model. And let's remember, of course, to love mitzvahs and to show them how chashuv every mitzvah is, how prominent the mitzvah is in our life, and they'll feel that it's prominent as well. I just want to end with this magnificent, magnificent story. There was a fellow, he lived in Detroit. His name was Rabbi Dr. Leo Goldman, and he told me this story. When he was 15 years old, he lived in Vilna in Lithuania. And he was one of the only children that survived the war. And he came back to Vilna, and Vilna, all the synagogues were broken and smashed. There were no Sifrei Torah left. So the people would daven in a shul, in a makeshift shul. There was one shul that barely you could still go in there. But then it came Simchas Torah. And when it came Simchas Torah, they wanted to dance. But how are you going to dance without Sefer Torah? So the old man was just standing around. And then Dr. Goldman told me that in the back, a young couple walked in with 2 kids. Nobody ever saw them before. Where'd they come from? They were in hiding, and somehow they made it to Vilna. And he told me that there was a little boy and a little girl. The boy was 3, the girl was 2, and the girl could not talk in a regular voice because they were hiding. They always whispered, so her vocal cords were not even developed. And the old men said, "Oh, let's bring in the children, because every child is a living Sefer Torah. If we don't have a Sefer Torah, a child is a living Sefer Torah. Let's hold the children and we'll dance around the beam." And that's what they did. And when he told me the story, it occurred to me something very special. The Zohar HaKadosh says that even the Sefer Torah in the Eichel, in the Aron Kodesh, needs mazel. You know what that means? In a very big synagogue, sometimes you could have 20 Sifrei Torah in the ark. But only one of them has mazel because you use it every Shabbos. Another one you use Rosh Chodesh or Yom Tov, but 17 out of the 20 don't have mazel. You only use them once a year on Simchas Torah. So I once heard from Rabbi Binyamin Kamenetsky, Zecher Tzadik Livrocha. He said, you know what the word mazel means? You're never going to forget this. Mem, Zayin, Lamed. Makom, Zman, and Loshen. If you're in the right place, Makom, at the right time, Zman, and you say the right thing, Loshen, that's mazel. What's mazel? You're in the right place, at the right time, and you say the right thing. So if the Zohar tells us that the Sefer Torah needs mazel, our children that are living Sifrei Torah, they need mazel. They need Makom, we should be there for them. They need Zman, they need that we should spend quality time with them. And finally, Lashon, they need that we should say the right things to inspire them. Hashem should bless every single one of us, that in our families, that we should have mazel with our children, mazel with our spouses, mazel with our homes, Makom, Zman, Lashon. And as we prepare for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur and the New Year, that we should make a commitment that the priority is not going to be the things that are insignificant, that's going to block our vision, but really the sun that represents Hashem and all the good. Let's remember the greatness of Judaism, the greatness of Yiddishkeit, and follow that perspective. And in that way, we'll all be gebenched with our good yard and our gesund yard. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for listening.